as a number of you have alluded to already, this is a very interesting moment for the purpose-led business movement. There are some very big shifts and questions that are challenging some underlying assumptions and beliefs and creating debate in a way that perhaps has been dialed up in recent months. And it's really important to acknowledge that, but I wanted to take a wider view for just a moment. The movement has come a really long way over the past decade or so. The role of business in society is now a topic of mainstream debate, and the impact that businesses have on our lives, our environment, our society, and our collective future is almost universally recognised as at least being worthy of the consideration of executive teams and boards, not least because it's become a topic of discussion and increasing interest for employees, customers, investors, regulators, policymakers, and other stakeholders on whom the business success relies. In many cases and across many sectors, some of the fundamental principles of the purpose-led business movement have now become table stakes. The minimum required to have a viable and sustainable business able to navigate complexity, adapt to volatile conditions, and build trusted relationships critical for resilience. There's a growing acknowledgement that businesses merely meeting the legal requirement may not be enough, that they also have to demonstrate a genuine interest in and care for all the people that their business impacts and the effects that it has on the natural environment. Those that merely comply with the regulatory requirements may find it increasingly hard to adapt to a rapidly evolving context. It seems that being 2 steps ahead of the market may be going too fast, but probably about 1.5 steps ahead is about right. And so when you take this wider view, there has been extraordinary progress in this movement, in both words and actions. But more recently, it seems, the purpose-led business movement is facing a more challenging environment. And a number of you have talked about this in the chat already. Lots of reasons for this, but perhaps the 2 strongest factors are the ongoing economic challenges that's creating a cost of living crisis and forcing a very commercial focus for many businesses who are feeling particularly challenged by that cost of living crisis. And also the increasingly uncertain and polarized political context. Many politicians and commentators are now taking a more directly critical approach to businesses that aim to create social change as well as financial value, causing some businesses to shift their stance, even if only in the words they choose to use to describe their actions, which may or may not have changed. Now, we know that progress isn't linear, and those who've worked in this area for decades talk about the natural ebb and flow of the work. At times, it's possible to make great strides. At other times, it's harder, and the attention might shift to less explicit or overt ways of maintaining momentum. However, even before the recent setbacks, particularly with regard to some environmental targets and commitments for diversity, equity, and inclusion, it was already clear that the do less harm preference of large organisations will not be sufficient in either scale, pace, or ambition to realise the full potential for the power of business to help solve our biggest societal and environmental challenges. In amongst the noise, the political positioning, the change in communications, policies or actions from some companies, and the doubling down from others, there are also no doubt some signals in the current context that we need to pay attention to. We all, as practitioners, know that this work is hard, complex, takes years, and may result in a great deal of value for individuals, for business, and for society, not all of which is measurable in financial terms or even predictable, given the timeframes involved. Trying to operate inside a system that values measurable metrics, short timeframes, predictability, and simplicity is therefore challenging. Perhaps some of the purpose washing that has rightly been called out has been a result of trying to sell the win-win too hard and not acknowledging the genuinely difficult trade-offs that purpose can never solve but can help businesses navigate more authentically and transparently. Perhaps the enthusiasm for creating positive impacts did lead some businesses to overreach, getting involved in issues that were not material to their business and possibly distracting them from those areas where they could and should have been paying more attention. As we listen to the voices in the debate, we should all be curious to hear what's really being said and what the underlying need is, and how we can respond in a way that ensures everyone feels heard and included, even those who currently are the movement's most vocal critics. Because from our perspective, we see this as a moment of opportunity for the purpose-led business movement. All the fundamentals are still there and growing stronger every day. We can see how important it is for people, citizens, to feel that business can be trusted to build a better future for us all, particularly as AI and other tech developments gather pace and transform our world. We can see how important that is for employees to feel their business is making the world a better place in some way, and that they work somewhere where they feel respected, able to grow and develop their skills, and that they're contributing to something meaningful. We can see that some long-term investors are starting to recognize the value of purpose in increasing the resilience and longevity of companies facing a disruptive and unpredictable future. And we can see some governments, regulators, and policymakers recognize the role of business in addressing some of our most challenging challenges in a way that deliver value across all the capitals: human, social, intellectual, natural, as well as financial. We can also see that the current context produces a tendency to create black and white arguments or false binaries that create dead-end choices and almost guarantee polarization. This stifles innovation, genuine debate, and curiosity, which are all the things we need most right now. Communities like this offer a place to explore these tensions in creative ways, bringing colour, imagination, and new possibilities to previously intractable problems. We work across the system, with people inside large organisations, with coaches and consultants who support them, with charities and NGOs that share the sense of possibility for transformation, with academics and business schools who are exploring new ways of thinking about business, and with other actors, investors, regulators, policymakers, commentators, who can see that a better way of doing business is possible and are finding each other to talk about it, experiment and learn together, and use their agency to make it happen. Pragmatic idealist, tempered radical, change maker, entrepreneur, terms used to describe people who are able to work within the current system whilst holding in mind their vision for a different and better way of doing things, and then creating, noticing, and seizing windows of opportunity for change. This is stretching work, calling for patience, tenacity, bridge building, and many other jiu-jitsu moves. But these are the people who can bridge the gap between what is and what could be. People who resist the allure of control or trying to predict with certainty what might happen, but are leaning into the uncertainty, imagining what might be possible, and then working to create it. These skills are also often undervalued or not recognised by big organisations. Finding new language can help illuminate what it is you do and help others understand it too. Finding other people who do it and learning from each other seems to be the best way to keep going, even when the context feels challenging. So in summary, you're in the right place. Back to you, Dee.